Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mind Your Business show. I am your host, Mr. Milt Walker, joined today again by Mr. Tony Calloway, the Private Money Godfather. How you doing today, Tony?
Happy holidays to you, Maestro, and to all of our viewers out there. I'm doing fantastic here
Good,
in
good.
beautiful, sunny, crisp, and cold Columbus, Georgia.
That's right.
And hey, we appreciate you guys making us an important part of your Saturday and an important part of your life. You got your Christmas shopping started, or you got it wrapped up there, Maestro?
Yeah, I've gotten it pretty squared away for the most part. Probably got a few, you know how it is. You always got that last minute going, but yeah, pretty much I got it pretty squared away.
Because of COVID, I have to say that I did all my Christmas shopping
Online.
sitting at my computer.
That's right,
Thank God
exactly.
for
Yeah, that's the
Amazon.
beauty of it, right? Amazon's been real busy this year.
I swear, I see more FedEx and what's the other one? UPS trucks and everything running around now is crazy. Hey,
Right.
but everybody, we have a special guest today, and I think
Yes,
it's very
yes.
timely. Longtime friend of mine, and just a wonderful person. On top of all that, Vicki Flanagan with the Caraway Firm. Vicki, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine, a little chilly, but other than that, I'm up and ready to go.
Yeah, Vicky. Now, I texted her earlier this morning. She was coming into the office at 9:30. I said, "Wow, it's, she's taking this show seriously." So we certainly appreciate you making this an important part of your Saturday to be here for our guest. Now, Vicky and I figured out that we've known each other since the mid 1980s and just been back and forth in and out of our lives. And in fact, the first as a young lieutenant back at Fort Benning when I bought my house. Vicky then, as a mortgage broker, actually closed the transaction for my wife and
Hmm.
I. And
Wow.
so, from that standpoint, we've gone on to other bigger, better things, but always been in orbit around each other. And so, we're delighted to have her here to share her depth of knowledge and insights in terms of a variety of things relating to taxes, accounting, and so forth. So, I want to ask everybody if you got a question that relates to any of the topic when you think accountant. If you have a question, please go ahead and start loading those into the chat. We love for her to talk to you and answer those questions as we go through. But Vicki, help our viewers who have not known you as long as I have to get to know who you are as a person. So if you want to share 4 or 5 minutes of your human interest story as to how you got to be who you are and where you are, we'd love to hear that.
All righty. Well, after I graduated from college, first, Tony, I was raised in the military. My father was a career military officer, and I got to see a good portion of the world, and I'm thankful for that now. At the time, I didn't think it was too exciting when I was growing up, and I always had the desire to be an accountant, and I loved it and actually started off in that field in the mortgage business where you and I met. And I
Mm,
stayed in the mortgage business until I'd finally just took that plunge and said, I'm going into public practice. It was a difficult transition. Um, and it was at a time where women were not considered to be the brightest people in the world.
Mm.
But I think we passed through that one, and I feel like I've made a mark and been able to achieve
yeah.
and accomplish some of my goals. But I've always been in private practice, except for a tenure when I first went into full-fledged accounting. I worked for one of the big eight firms, Ernst and Ernst,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and that was woo. That's learning. It was learning.
Definitely.
And a 80-hour week was a short week,
Wow.
but I finally took the plunge in shortly after I met you, Tony, and went into public practice, and I have just grown with it over the years. I joined David Caraway back in 2012, and David was a sole practitioner and needed
Cool.
some help. And I came in and worked with him, and David unfortunately passed away very suddenly. And I decided at that point that I would just stay on and take over the firm, and we have grown by leaps and bounds since
Right.
then. I My love is getting to know that small business person and helping them from the get-go without breaking their backs with fees to
Right.
get them to where they can move forward and run a successful business.
Well, that is fantastic.
Awesome.
And I'm sure that some of you who are watching are trying to figure out, where does his voice? I've heard this voice before. And, and every time I see the movie G.I. Jane, I think of Vicki because the woman, the actress's name is Anne Bancroft, but she plays Senator Lillian DeHaven in the in G.I. Jane, and there's this one particular scene where she and Demi Moore are kind of going at it, but I'm like, oh man, I thought about maybe playing that scene, but I said it'd be a little bit too complicated. But I thought they ever needed a voice double. I think Vicki, you're perfect for that. And you were saying that you also been mistaken for another famous actress from time
I
to
sure have.
time.
That was priceless.
You ought to share that though. That was
I was going through the Atlanta airport, and two people literally I thought were running for a flight or something was going on behind me, and they almost skidded to a stop and asked for my autograph, and I'm standing there looking at them like, ooh, I don't know about this one. But come to find out, they thought I was Jamie Lee Curtis. But if you look at that autograph, I am quite
You
sure
do
they
favor. You do favor her now.
signed my name. I didn't want to be
Right.
signing my name and them get call somebody and try and sell that signature.
Oh wow. Well, let's get into and again I want to ask everybody, if you've got questions, please go ahead and load those into the chat so we can entertain. But I will ask the maestro, we have any shout outs this morning, folks who tuned in and joined us early?
Yeah, yeah. We got quite a few people joining us early, but Nikki Johnson says good morning,
Thank you,
everyone.
Nick.
Yeah, and Lawana Hayes is back with us, one of our top
Oh,
fans. I want to shout her out. She's got the top fan badge. Um, Ryan Calloway says good morning from Ryan and Matthew Calloway. So
all right.
yeah, yeah. But we
Son
got
and
quite a few people watching, so they're ready for some good
fantastic.
information.
All right. Well, hey,
And
you
also
guys.
we got just a slight snow flurry on the stream, so just be calm and just carry on, but
Yeah,
don't mind the snow, okay?
yeah. We're going to have a extra. Well, I guess our next show will actually be the day after Christmas, but
Right, right.
I appreciate the fact that you have us in the holiday and the festive
That's right.
mood. Vicki, all right, let's get into me. I hope this doesn't seem like an interrogation, but some of these are questions I have. All right,
Okay.
now we have bookkeepers, then we have accountants, and then we have certified public accountants or CPAs.
Hmm.
For my edification and for the audience, could you help people to understand the relationship between those three and whatever the nuanced differences are, so that because we use these terms relatively ubiquitously, and of course we kind of rank order them in terms of some professional expertise. But if you would, I certainly appreciate that clarification.
Typically, your bookkeeper is someone that is keeping the books internally for a business, and they are the ones they handle all the checking accounts, record all the transactions, and then it moves on from there to an outside accountant. And the outside accountant is the one that takes all of that information and typically is the one that puts together the financial statements, being the profit and loss and balance sheets that are often used by bankers or other mortgage lenders, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Um, a certified public accountant is one that has gotten a 4-year degree and has to have that focus in so many hours in accounting and finance and has passed a very strenuous test to be able to have that certification behind their names. They are typically they are the only ones that could I shouldn't have said typically, they are the only ones that can do what we call audited financial statements. Many institutions, businesses, lenders require audited financial statements of the businesses, and it depends on the size of that business and what all they're involved in.
Okay.
Every
Okay.
hospital has to have an audit each year.
Right, right. Okay. Well, now from the standpoint that, as you're well aware, many small businesses may be using software to where they do their own, I'll say the bookkeeping part.
Mhm.
And now how does, let's just go all the way to the other end of the spectrum. If somebody had to have audited financial statements, and oftentimes when I'm doing loan packages for clients for some more significant transactions, they have to have that. How does a CPA come in and do an audited financial statement when you've not necessarily been part of the bookkeeping process, or is it forensic in some regard to see if these books have been cooked, if the information is accurate? Yeah, so get us inside that process. What is that auditing that a CPA is doing?
All right, that's a good question, Tony. The when we're looking at auditing a company and their books, then you are, unfortunately, we have a very cynical attitude, because we are looking to see, number one, if everything has been recorded adequately and properly.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, to see if there's any cooking of those books, or if there's any misappropriation of funds, or are there receivables in balance, their payables in balance, all kinds of things are put into that. And it is a very in-depth process that you have to go through in order to ever put out audited financial statements and express a qualified opinion on them, as to that they fairly represent the financial status of that entity that you're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now I would venture to guess in a lot of cases, when you find issues, those are, say, errors as opposed to intentional misrepresentations,
Um,
uh, which,
and over the years, and you probably remember this from the banking industry, Tony, when the federal savings and loans were around,
mm-hmm, yeah,
I ran across a situation with my partner and I did, and unfortunately, there were two sets of books
hmm,
with S&L. S&Ls were not particularly controlled or monitored in a manner as the banking industry was. So it was easier for them to get by with it. I have seen in a hospital audit where the hospital administrator was unfortunately misappropriating funds, not by taking cash or anything, but buying stuff for his home
yeah.
that was billed to the hospital.
Okay, wow,
But otherwise, everything usually is just unintentional errors
right.
and cleaning up the books as they need to be.
Okay, all right. Well, now, I guess shifting to things that might be of more interest to small business and everybody is, now what's the difference between an IRS audit and an audit financials? What are, if it's just a whole different bag of worms, then you can articulate that. But when most people hear the word audit, they're thinking about the IRS, of course.
Right.
Yeah, you say that word and you see a lot of blood pressure go up and color change in people's faces.
Right.
It's
A lot of sweat start coming down.
IRS audits are typically focused on a select subject in that tax return.
Hmm.
And that doesn't mean that they can't look at the entire return, but those types of audits are often done because someone has claimed $15,000 in contributions and they're showing $11,000 in income. And I've actually seen that. Or they randomly audit for things like, one year they had a focus on child tax credits and daycare expenses. And they will routinely do things of that nature. Audited financial statements is absolutely verifying the numbers that appear in those financial statements
Gotcha.
and the soundness of the business.
Okay. And I understand that you're an enrolled agent with the IRS. What does that represent and as a benefit to clients who you work with?
Actually, an enrolled agent, that is an exam that, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but it's a very difficult exam because it is focused on nothing but taxes and tax law. And it is on tax law related not just to the individual, but corporations, foreign entities, partnerships, S corporations. It's a very complex exam, but it is all about tax.
Okay. All right. So if people have, and I've been audited twice, and it's no fun. And I would have to say that there's sometimes when you're guessing, but what I discovered is the IRS, I call, has all this macro data, and in fact, the auditor, and it was something about my mileage, and she
Mm-hmm.
was saying for the amount of revenue that we generated, there's no way that I could have had that much mileage that I claimed, because I was like, you start keeping the mileage log, and then you say, the heck with it, then you start back. So I was estimating, but I was like 30 or 40% above. I guess they have a margin of error, and
They
I'm like,
do.
that's amazing. And she pegged. I say, well, if you say so, because I was just guessing because I didn't have a record to show, but that was one.
Unfortunately, they can nail you with things like that, that auditor does have some leeway,
Mhm.
being able to look at the profession that you're in
Right.
and say, okay, this person does do a lot of traveling, i.e., a real estate agent. And that real estate agent may just be beginning in that field, in that career, and ride and drive every day looking for a piece of property to list or getting familiar with the market. I have seen that many, many times, but you better have some sort of record.
Exactly. uh, Maestro, do we have any questions from anybody in the audience? Or
No, no questions just yet, but
okay.
Edward Winton just joined us, another top fan. You know,
All
he's back with us again.
right. Well, hey, I appreciate all of y'all who've shown up this morning to share our conversation with Vicki Flanagan with the Caraway Firm, as we're talking about accounting, bookkeeping. And so now we're going to start getting some insights, because Vicki deals with lots of businesses, lots of real estate investors. And I was telling her before we came on the air, hey, if you got stories, people love stories. So, Vicki, what are some of the main areas of solutions that you and the Caraway Firm provide for real estate investors and for small business owners?
Well, the first thing we do, let's talk about that small business owner. We offer the services of keeping their books on a monthly basis, which allows them to simply run their company
Right.
and not have to worry about all the minutia of doing this and doing that and trying to keep a set of records that are impeccable. What we will do is we will charge a monthly fee, which in most cases, I will say is very minimal. We have some that are as little as $100 a month, and they certainly can't hire an in-house bookkeeper to do something of that nature and then retain an outside accounting firm. We
Mm.
will reconcile those bank accounts, run live payrolls, and provide them monthly financial statements. And we have an idea of where they are all the time,
Right.
not only financially, but tax wise.
Mm,
Okay.
that's
All
good.
right. And for real estate investors, now their uh, income and expense structure tends to be radically different than a business, a retail, say, type of operation.
That's true.
And I know you got a deep background in real estate. You were saying you actually taught real estate investing courses. So, in addition to the bookkeeping and accounting, what are some value adds that you can provide for our real estate investment clients?
One of the things that I would suggest is that when you are looking at buying a piece of real estate, you need to look at the cost of that real estate, and certainly it's going to be if you're doing it as an investor for income producing purposes, you need to look at the cost of that real estate, what it's going to cost to maintain it, and to be able to see what type of income you're going to have potentially off of it. And sit down with someone that's got a background in real estate that and knows the tax laws as far as that is concerned, and understanding that you pay. We'll just use an example, Tony. Of let's say you buy a duplex for $200,000, you can't depreciate that $200,000 cost. You have to take out the cost of the land that duplex is sitting on. And most investors don't know what that cost of that land is. So they need to go to someone that can do the research and knows how to allocate cost to the land that cannot be depreciated.
Okay.
The investors don't know what they can deduct and what they cannot deduct as far as their income and expenses.
And that you just brought up something, because I oftentimes when I'm teaching my course, I never really think about the fact that the land can't be depreciated. And I'll say that what is it, straight line is 31 years or something now? Or has it?
It's 27 and a half on property.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
a house or something.
But right, you have to deduct the value of the land from that, and then you get that phantom expense, I guess, which is one of the benefits of real estate investing as it relates to reducing your tax profile.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Now, on that subject of of real estate, now, whenever, and for those of you who are viewing, Private Money Syndicate provides private financing for real estate investing, and for small businesses, we one of the big things we're doing now is helping real estate investors and small business people get credit lines. Interest rates, I mean, some of our programs is 0% interest for 12 and up to 24 months. So to the extent that you would still have debt service, but every dollar you're paying during that period of time is going toward principal. But all those loans have to be closed in an entity. So a person needs to have an LLC or limited liability corporation or some type of corporation. So Vicki and I were discussing before we came on camera. So now's her time to shine and share with you. If you would help our clients to understand, what are the differences between the LLC and the two types of corporation? What are some advantages and disadvantages, so that as they're evaluating, and maybe even where talking with an accountant would help them to make those decisions outside of just the general definitions that you can give now.
Okay, and I highly recommend they do seek professional advice before deciding on a type of entity. Typically, you see people end up with making a decision to form an LLC. And if it's an LLC, which is a limited liability company, then they have to make an election within 75 days of forming that LLC to function as a sub S corporation. If they do not, or a partnership, it will, if it's more than one person, it will automatically default to a partnership if a proper election is not filed. A limited liability company, a corporation, is just that. You are limiting as best you can through the structure your liability exposure. If you are a sole member, you're the only one that is in that LLC, and you have not made an election for your business to function as a sub S corporation, then you have really not accomplished much of anything. Your income and expenses are going to be placed back on your personal tax returns on a Schedule C. Then we have a corporate structure, which we call C Corps, which is typically it's a corporation of which you, or however many people are involved in it, acquire shares of that corporation. And I always use the illustration of when you're buying shares of a company that you have formed, it's no different than if you're out there buying a share of American Family Life or something else. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just not publicly traded.
Right.
But you have to invest in some. You've got to have what's that old expression? Some skin in the game
Right.
in order to have that. Get a share of stock in that corporation, even though it's yours.
Exactly.
And you have to file a tax return on that corporation. Corporations will lend themselves to a little better liability exposure to where you're not personally exposed, but it's not foolproof. Uh,
Okay.
and I think you just have to always talk with a professional and explain to them what you are fixing to do and get their advice as to the type of entity to form before you just go off and do it.
Yeah. And from my experience, I see most people form LLCs. And again, it's probably the easiest to do. But have you encountered situations where it was inadvisable for someone to either have formed an LLC, or maybe it's time for them to evolve into using a corporate structure? And if so, how are they able to make a transition from one to another?
All right, they actually have to file final returns on the LLC and or on their personal tax returns, remembering that if it's just one person involved in the LLC, then you have to go in and form that corporate entity, register it with the state that you're doing business in, and properly fund it by acquiring shares in it. You can't just move from one to the other.
Okay, okay. So there is a process that you would be well advised to, because the IRS will figure out how
Yes,
to
they
get
will.
you if you don't do it right. Uh, all right. Well, before I go to my next question, any questions out there from our audience, Milt?
No, no. Versandra Kennebrew just joined us, but
All right,
no questions yet. They're just soaking up all this good information right
all
now,
right,
and
all
I
right.
am too. So,
I've got plenty of questions, so we're not
right,
going to run out.
right.
All right. So, Vicki, from the standpoint of someone looking to hire a an accountant, whether it's
Hmm.
certified or not,
Hmm.
uh, put yourself on the other side of the desk. I'm coming to you. What's the process that you would take me through to determine if you're going to take me on as a client? What's the experience with Vicki Flanagan and the Caraway Firm for that new startup who's looking to have a relationship with an accountant?
All right. First thing we do is I'm going to sit down with them or a member of my staff, and we're going to try and get to know them personally and get a feel for their personality because each and every person in this world functions differently and gets along with different types of people. And it's very important that you be able to have a good relationship with whomever you decide you're going to use. Uh, we try to advise them and interview them to see how they're maintaining their records and what we will require from them if we're doing their accounting for them on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, or if we're going to run payroll for them, live payroll, or process after the fact. And one thing that you have to do when you are looking to hire any accountant, you need to you need to interview that accountant
Mm,
and see what their experience is. I have a love for real estate, but I also have a broad spectrum of love for taxes. So I'm a little more flexible. Some accountants focus on nothing but estates or trust, and you need to know if they are have any experience whatsoever with the type of business you're fixing to run.
okay.
If they do not, then you need to move away and find someone that does.
Okay. That's some very good advice there, because just like doctors, physicians have different specializations. I
Exactly.
mean, most of us say a doctor, but if you say a surgeon or a podiatrist or something like that, identifies. But accountants, do they? often advertise their specializations? I've heard of tax accountants, but
Um,
or how would somebody try to
I,
narrow that search as opposed to it being random? Is there any way?
I don't know many accountants. In fact, I'm sitting here almost scratching my head trying to think of reputable, and I say that with tongue in cheek. There are many. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute about the tax preparers out that come up during tax season. But as far as advertising, the professionals just don't seem to do it.
Hmm.
Uh, I never have. It's really word of mouth.
Right.
It's, and I would suspect, kind of like your business, one tells another, and they're satisfied with the services, and that's how you grow. And they find out what you can and can't do.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you brought up yeah, that the season of pop up tax preparer shops is right around the corner. So we didn't talk about tax preparers. Now, what is the difference? Pros, cons, and yeah, talk about talk about tax preparers as a professional function and how that differs than having a accountant relationship who can obviously provide that service for someone.
Well, unfortunately, Tony, we see many tax preparers pop up during tax season. And if you go back and look for them on April the 16th, they get shut down and you cannot find them. And one thing the taxpayer needs to always remember is that they may get shafted by
Hmm.
these pop-up tax preparers, but it does not matter. The liability is always on that taxpayer.
Yes.
If there's a glaring mistake or there's something been put on there that should never have gone on that return, IRS is, they'll be sympathetic and sit there and, pat you on the head and say, I'm so sorry, but you owe these taxes and it's not going to change. And so you have to be very careful. There is an element of, unfortunately, taxpayers that expect to get large refunds. I
Hmm.
have a story that I can tell you real quickly. I had a client, he wasn't a client. He was just walked in the door one day and wanted to know, if we did tax returns. Certainly we do. So he gave us the information, called him, told him his tax returns were ready to be picked up. And he looked at him and he said, I'm insulted. And I was like, oh my goodness, what have we done? And
Hmm.
he said, I'm used to getting back $9,000, $10,000, and you're only showing a little over 2,000. Well, what it was, he'd been to one of the pop-up tax preparers who had claimed children he did not have, uh, had claimed that he was not married, was head of household, and he took all kinds of child tax credits and
See?
daycare credits and things, educational credits, and man hadn't even gotten out of high school. And it was terrible. And when I
Wow.
sat down and explained to him that this return was done correctly and that he needed to hold his breath because of IRS audited him, he was going to be paying back those huge refunds.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
he was shocked. It is the taxpayer's responsibility. I know that taxpayers, the majority of them, do not understand a tax return or they wouldn't seek the help of a professional.
Yeah.
But look at your return. And if you see student loan interest on there, it's right on the front of the tax return, and you don't have student loan interest, or you see somebody's name on there that doesn't belong to you, you need to raise that red flag and do it immediately.
Wow. Well, as you bring that up, there are people who intentionally pursue that, and I think that has cultivated the tax preparation business to a level of of I don't know. I mean, yeah, but I think the caution that you're making is that whether it's accidental or somebody's doing it because that's how they attract their business. You know, people like to go back to the well that had the sweetest water. Then, you know, as Vicki said, you're on the hook for that. Now, if you didn't know any better, now you do, because IRS will find you. It's kind of like Liam Neeson in Taken. Say, I will find you.
Absolutely. They will. They have, they, every detective should have their knowledge, I can assure you.
And when they do, some money will wind up coming out of your paycheck, your bank account.
It's going to come somewhere, and people need to
Exactly.
be aware. They can,
Or your refund or your stimulus check. I've heard all these stories, you know.
oh yeah.
What will happen? Uh, well, before we continue on another related question, I want to see if we have any questions from our audience, because I find this very informing, and Vicki is so entertaining. I certainly, I'm so glad that your personality comes with a lot of knowledge. Any questions out there, Milt?
No, no, not
No?
just yet. No
All
questions.
right. All right. Well, I'm going to let you think of one while I answer this next one. All right. So, Vicki, from a think of a story that can relate to your answer to this question. Someone who is looking to start up a business in the current environment with the pandemic and things like that. Because I talk to a lot of people, they want to still start restaurants, which are challenging. Do you ever, I'll use the term, talk people out of their idea of?
I have.
Okay, well, yeah, because I do that a lot.
Well, I've had, just since this pandemic, I've had two come in that wanted to open restaurants, and the best advice I could give them is, you better sit down and think about this, because we may see this whole country shut down.
Mm,
And people are very much aware now, and becoming more and more so of, and appreciating the fact that we are in a pandemic, and that this disease is obviously very deadly,
mm.
and the food service industry is just not the best choice at this point in time. And I've talked them down to the point of just slow down and let's wait and see where we go
Right.
as far as the economy and this pandemic and what we can do.
Yeah. And from our point of view, I've said this several times. Milk knows we do three times more loans if I wasn't talking two-thirds of the people. I don't know. I'm a Saturday Night Live fan, but there was a sketch that was had Chris Kattan in it, but I forgot. They said, "Don't do it, don't do it." So, I mean, people, I totally appreciate and admire, because it beats in my heart that entrepreneurial drive to get out there and be captain of your own ship and strike out and start a business. But there are a lot of things that oftentimes people, and Vicki and I's position, because we talk to so many people in business, real estate, things like that. We see what's going on, and it's not that and everybody thinks I can make it work anyway. And so obviously we can't keep you from doing anything. But one of the things that is on our website for Private Money Syndicate, which is rare for money brokers, is we have a fiduciary statement. And that stems back from my being in the financial services industry. I'm not going to do something I know is not healthy and in your best interest just because you can. And Vicki, I've had several clients who had money. They didn't necessarily need to get the financing, and gone out there and made real estate investments that were ill-advised.
Mhm.
Where I tell people that if a broker or a lender turns you down, that's because it doesn't make sense to them. I say they're risk averse. So now if they say yes, it's probably giving you a two thumbs up. But if they reject it, or they won't loan you as much or something like that, there's a message inside of that. And I just say this because we say we want to power your dreams with private money, but we're not going to power your nightmare with private money, not with private money.
I think, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. I think one of the things that, for example, if you've been turned down by a bank, and you are looking to buy a piece of real estate investment, piece of property and that bank's turned you down, then you are trying too hard to buy a bad investment if you
Hmm.
start seeking money elsewhere. A lot of times, though, Tony, I do see this. The bank will say, we're going to turn you down because you don't have enough money going into this investment. And we have to remember that buying a piece of real estate that is going to be income producing, let's say you buy a little house to
Hmm.
rent out and get the tax advantages from, we have to remember that if that property does not stay rented, that owner is sitting there making that mortgage payment.
Hmm.
The bank is looking at that just like I'm sure you do, and it's called location, location, location.
Right.
And don't buy a piece of real estate if you think that it's been renting for years at say $1,000 a month, and think that you're going to go in there because you are the new owner and you think you can make this happen and get $2,000 a month for it. I've seen this many times,
Right.
and they've got to have that kind of income to service the debt, and that's just, I mean, it's just bad. Seek out that professional to get some help,
Yeah.
and see if you're gonna have a rate of return.
And that's matter of fact, one of my biggest success stories is a guy who he's been doing great, but he was paying all cash and not using any leverage. So I helped him to understand rate of return, and he has exploded his cash flow, exploded his portfolio,
I'm
and
sure.
but there's that proper balance, and to the extent that our purpose here with the Private Money Syndicate is we love people who are portfolio investors, and we want to definitely give you guidance that is going to help you to continue to grow. And so, Vicki, I've got this thing I say that we want 0% infant mortality, and what I mean by that is people go out there and kill themselves on their first deal and
Indeed.
never come back. So I'm not gonna participate in in your failure.
Right.
And I know people have gone elsewhere, gotten the money, and then come back. I would tell this. Well, maybe I can tell the story. I'd have to try to keep the names out of it, but I told them no. They went somewhere, got the funding, uh, got into the project. They were going to flip this property, got stuck, and then they were trying to refinance the hard money loan, which I tried and tried, couldn't find a solution. But I knew that the estimates they were getting from the contractors were way too low. And if you
Mhm.
have those draws, they're not going to give you the next draw unless you get permitted and inspection and pass. And so they basically ran out of the rehab money, and then they wound up just pretty much punting on the project, lost the money that they had put into it. And
Mhm.
so having somebody who understands the contractor, which will probably do a separate show with a contractor, that's a good idea. uh,
Mhm.
they can get in there. Once they're in, it's kind of like you're married to them.
That's true. I mean, we just had the recent experience, Tony, of
Mhm.
let's say someone buys that piece of property and been ill advised. I mean, or been advised not to do so, and they make that ill choice.
Right.
And they go in and they say, okay, it's going to cost me $100,000 to rehab this property. What just happened 3 weeks ago with the lumber cost? It shot sky high.
Wow.
And a lot of people were in the middle of new home construction, and it caught them short because they were trying to act as their own general contractors.
Hmm.
Therefore, they didn't have a locked in price. They were going, pay as you go.
Right.
Same thing with the piece of investment property. I don't think I'm sitting here thinking that because I've heard this so many times, I can't afford, Vicky, to go in and buy a piece of rental property. 9 times out of 10, yes, you can, because
Hmm.
you've got equity sitting somewhere. And
Right.
more than likely, and if you're going into investment property, you probably already have a home, and that home has built equity in it. And it's called leveraging and
Right.
being able to pull your equity in your home is dead until you die and somebody sells it or you decide to sell it. So that's equity that's sitting there that nobody's taking advantage of. And
Yeah,
that's one of the things I like to teach people when they come in of wanting real estate advice is how to raise this capital with, and many times I can walk them through a process of where they can buy this property without having to touch their own assets.
that's fantastic. Yeah, and like I said, the key thing that we're kind of having chit chat about now is the benefit of perspective. And most people who are starting into a venture, all they know is either what they read or what they've been taught. When you've got folks like Vicki, myself, who've been around in 30 plus years professionally, and it's not just what we know from our own direct experiences, also what we know from the people we know. And from the
That's
standpoint, one of the valuable assets of the private money syndicate is our network of advisors, people who touch almost every corner of things that would be directly or indirectly related to finance, where we can help you solve problems. In fact, Vicki and I were just discussing, and let me bring this into the conversation, Vicki. Um, a lot of businesses have been really impacted. We were talking about the food service industry, for example, and I've had more than, I'll say, a dozen clients over the past bounce, I'll say, since March, who have been in restaurants and things like that, who were trying to get financing, but obviously they couldn't because their revenue was uh, pretty much cut off. But there are services where a loan is not going to be the solution. You need some reprieve from the expenditures that are associated with things like leases, servicing debt that the business already has been able to acquire, maybe in an effort to survive. But now an accountant is going to see what they would call that hemorrhaging in the cash flow profile, the income and expense statement. And you'll see the change in the balance sheet uh, happening with a business as their cash goes down, their debt goes up. We were discussing that there are services that can renegotiate those terms where
Mhm.
you keep the same debt, but instead of having your payments structured over a 36 month, it might get stretched out to 60 or 72. That's going
Mhm.
to allow that business to improve their cash profile. So anyway, I guess the question after I gave that statement is, are you seeing those kind of circumstances with businesses that are just really being challenged with the pandemic? How do they survive? And
Oh,
creative solutions is not another loan. I think that's probably
that's
something.
putting a band-aid on something that needs 50 stitches. That
Yeah.
doesn't work. What we have done with a number of our clients is they may be in a commercial building that
Mhm.
they've got a lease on. And, I guess the bottom line is you feel like you're being rough on the owner of that building, but it's kind of a situation where we've just taken and looked at the lease and said, you know what, they can hold you to this lease. However, this is not the most tenable and favorable environment right now. Therefore, they don't want a vacancy. Let me see what we can renegotiate here. And it may be only for 6 months or a year, but get that cost down for them.
Right.
Because
Hmm.
that owner rather have something than nothing.
Yeah.
And we've not only done that with the leases or the we've done it with outstanding debt service where they had money owed to the banks, savings, not savings and loans, credit unions, whatever the case may be. We offer a full service. I'm telling you,
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I feel like I go home with every client every night sometimes. But
Because you care. I mean, it's I mean, when this is your, I'll say your ministry, I mean, when you're doing what you're called to do,
that,
and you know that there may be some solutions, that's my point. They don't know. And maybe what they think will be the solution is just, like you said, putting a band-aid on something that requires stitches.
mhm.
But through the private money syndicate, we have a vendor resource that actually has a law firm that can renegotiate just about everything. And the object is
Mhm.
to maintain the credit profile by 100% payback. But they've got the relationships, a lot of this relationships and I guess, the legal acumen to help resolve and keep businesses in business. And so if you who are out there in our viewing audience know anybody who has a business that has business debt, leases, things like that they're struggling with, we're just talking about, they may be suffering in silence. They might know they can't get another loan, but there are options that are perfect to help resolve the situations they find themselves in. So I'm glad to know that, Vicki, you've been working with people in that particular situation too. So, like I said, it's just knowing options that most of the people out there would benefit from knowing us and let us do what we do because we know how to fix their problems. Uh, all right, so as we're getting down to the end, I told you this hour goes fast, Vicki. Milt, do we have any questions from the net?
Yeah. So
Okay, we go.
Satish VM Satman, uh, it just agrees with everything, but he asked the question, what's the best advice for someone who's a first-time 1099 employee filing taxes?
Woo,
Which is a good
that's
question for this year, yeah.
a good
Because
question.
they did change a lot of that's, the law around 1099 employees
Yes,
this year. Yeah.
first of all, they have to truly to be a 1099 person. They have got to be completely independent
Hmm.
from whoever's giving issuing that 1099.
Right.
We have many employers that will try and do that to avoid paying payroll taxes. But for that individual that gets one, depending upon the nature of the work they do, I'll just use an example of a real estate agent. They are 1099s. They receive 1099s on all the commissions they earn during the course of a calendar year. Keep up with your business expenses, i.e., dues that you pay to MLS or to the Board of Realtors, the National Board of Realtors. Keep up with meals that you may buy for a client while you're trying to sell them a house. Be sure keep the receipt, document on that receipt who that client was. Uh, do the best you can with mileage. And I hope there's not a lot of agents out there listening to this statement that I'm fixing to make, but uh, if the you none of us will, I don't think, are meticulous enough to keep up with daily mileage. We It's just too easy to forget it and you get busy. One of the things I suggest you do though is that you take at the beginning of the year, January 1st, write down the odometer reading on your vehicle that you drive for business purposes.
Hmm.
And when you get your oil changed, be sure, or you have your vehicle serviced, be sure they put the odometer reading on that service ticket and maintain that service ticket.
Hmm.
And do this throughout the course of the year. And if bless your heart, if you haven't kept up with your mileage, and I'm the first to tell you, I don't keep up with mine the way I should. But at least you have a basis to go back and let someone like me put forth a good argument with IRS based upon the nature of your business. And many, many times, well, I'll knock on wood, I've only lost one audit in over 35 years.
Awesome.
And it was, I just hadn't been told the truth. That's all there was to it.
Hmm.
That 1099 employee, and they should be prepared. I always tell people this: if you're a 1099 independent contractor sitting out there, I recommend that you take 20% of every dime you get that's going to be 1099 to you, set it aside, put it in a savings account, do something, forget you've got it, and let me look at that income every quarter so I can see that you have the money set aside to pay in estimated taxes. Because
Okay.
otherwise, you're going to be hit with a big tax bill. You are paying your own Social Security taxes when you're self-employed like that.
Interesting.
Yes, that's very good. All right, we've got 2 minutes. Any other questions?
No, 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 that's it for
Okay.
the questions. Everybody's
Well,
just
Satish, that was a
gotten
really
all
good
kinds
one.
of good information. Yeah.
Glad you asked that. All right, Vicki, this is your opportunity to give a 2-minute commercial for the Caraway Firm. Tell everybody how they can get in contact with you and have them come see you.
All right. Well, first of all, we've been around for a good long while, and we are located on Whitesville Road in an office complex called the Arbor, and
Okay.
we are listed in all you got to do is call on information or ask someone, and you can reach us at 706-576-5111. And I can assure you, your phone call will be returned. And the one thing that I take a great deal of pride in with this firm is that we hold your hand through every situation that you can possibly be in. I've even had the sorrow of having to plan a client's funeral and take care of all those arrangements. And there's not a fee for doing those things. That's called caring and knowing your client and being there to help them through whatever the situation may be, as far as finances are concerned or anything of that nature. And I have a wonderful staff. We're here all day long, 5 days a week, and I'm available in the evening. So you're never without, I can assure you.
Wow. Well, Vicki, I thank you for making time to be here with our audience. And I do hope that for those of you who need accounting services, you'll get in contact with Vicki at the Caraway Firm. Longtime friend of mine, just a wonderful person. And Vicki, I just want to thank you again. I want to thank the maestro for hosting this morning. I want to wish you and Vicki, I want to wish you too and all the viewers happy holidays, Merry Christmas, as we're going to see you the day after. We're not going to miss a beat, but as we say here at the Mind Your Business show, if you're going to go in business and stay in business, you've got to mind your business. So we'll look forward to seeing you next time. And with that, I'll turn it over to the maestro to take us on home.
All right. And thank you everybody for joining us. And we really appreciate you, Miss Vicky, for all your wisdom and your insight that you shared with us today. Um, and definitely, if you're looking for any IT services or, any web services, definitely keep us in mind and look up the Silver Lining Consulting LLC.